Hey history fans, and happy Thanksgiving. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Thanksgiving holiday today. And I know that we all probably realized that it was a little more complex than the story we heard as kids about the first Thanksgiving. But what would you think if I told you that might not even be the first Thanksgiving? All right, I promise I will explain, but before I do, I need you guys to help me out a little bit and hit the subscribe button down there, or at least like or comment or do something so that I can keep doing these videos and bringing you cool history facts. So anyway, back to Thanksgiving. All right, so when we think about the founding of America, we probably think a lot about the 13 colonies and Columbus and Roanoke, but that wasn't the whole story. A lot of times we forget that Britain was not the only country to have colonies here in the United States. So Spain was here really early on, and the Netherlands, France, and even Sweden had a colony here for about 20 years. Not to mention, the Vikings were in North America, maybe not America, but at least North America 500 years before that. And even before that were, the Native Americans. So a lot of times the British history is what gets told and remembered, and that's what our traditions are based off of. So let's talk a little bit about Thanksgiving. So nowadays we think about Thanksgiving being kind of a secular holiday. Well, not really even kind of. It's a secular holiday. We think about Christmas, Easter, those kinds of things being religious holidays. But Thanksgiving has always been a holiday for America, right? But turns out that in the past, Thanksgiving was very, very religious. A lot of religious groups would have masses or services of thanksgiving or giving thanks. After they did some penance and had a fast, then they would have that service and then get together with their community and sometimes have a meal and sometimes even a feast. So that's where the tradition of Thanksgiving came from. That's what the Pilgrims would have been doing in 1621 in Plymouth. They would have been having a feast of Thanksgiving after some prayer. And even George Washington during the Revolutionary War would hold services of Thanksgiving after major battles. In 1789, he actually made a Thanksgiving Day proclamation that said the whole nation of the United States and all the American people should have a public day of prayer and thanksgiving. Now, the crazy thing about that is that when Thomas Jefferson took over as president, he actually refused to do a public Thanksgiving because he believed so much in the separation of church and state. So basically, Thanksgiving was not a secular holiday. It started as a religious thing. Well, we know that Spain was exploring this hemisphere quite a while before Britain was, and they actually landed in Florida in 1531 with Ponce de Leon. We also know that Spain has a big tradition of Catholicism, and they would also hold masses of Thanksgiving when they landed after a long voyage or won a battle or whatever you would give thanks for. So there are two good candidates for the technical first Thanksgiving. So in 1540, Coronado set out from Mexico City, and him and a group of men headed north to look for gold. And in 1541, they found themselves in Palo Duro Canyon, which is in modern day Texas. It's kind of up in the panhandle. When they got there, the priest that was with them said they should have a feast and a service mass of Thanksgiving. And so they did. So technically that was a Thanksgiving that happened on what is now American soil. The other good candidate happened in 1565. So this one, if you think of Thanksgiving being kind of a meeting of the settlers and the Native Americans, this one kind of fits the bill a little better. So on September 8th, 1565, an explorer named Pedro Menendez de Aviles, and I'm sorry if I butchered that, him and his men landed in what we now call St. Augustine, Florida, and they were there to establish a colony. When they landed, the priest that was with them declared that they were also going to have a mass of Thanksgiving and a feast. But when they got there, the Native Americans that were already there joined them in both the mass and the feast. Now, Probably the Native Americans didn't really understand what the Mass was about at that time. They were probably just intrigued and imitating what the Spanish were doing, but they definitely were invited to and participated in that feast. And so to me, having settlers and explorers share a feast and a Mass with the Native Americans at the time really sounds like the first Thanksgiving. And that was in 1565, which is a whole lot of years before the 1621 Thanksgiving in Plymouth. So, I don't know, maybe we should all eat tapas instead of turkey, which sounds awesome to me. Well, no matter what you decide to eat for Thanksgiving, I hope you and your family have a happy Thanksgiving, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.